Hello and welcome to another ARCHLine.XP webinar. My name is Zoltán Tóth. Over here is, as always, our resident architect, Mr. Illés Pap.
Hi there.
Today is going to be all about the complex design tools that ARCHLine.XP has to offer. We have a lot to talk about, so let's take a look. So Illés, why don't you tell us in a couple of words what we are going to discuss today?
First things first, I would like to show you two core features for those who work with different project stages and phases. You would like to handle either the reconstruction plan or the demolition plan and the new construction plan. All these things can be handled in one single project, so I will talk about that first. And then I will also try to cover a feature called layer visibility groups, which comes a very handy tool when you would like to work with several groups and several combinations of the same drawing. This will speed things up a lot. And then I think we will talk about a few architectural items which give you the power to either decorate or literally just add some shading to the surfaces of the building. And talking about that, we will also cover the corner windows. There is an existing tool in ARCHLine which is called corner windows, but today we would like to talk about corner windows which are combined from several other individual windows, which gives you a very big boost when you would like to flexibly build up corner windows from library windows. And at the end, we try to focus a little bit on documentation. We will cover a few tools which give you, again, some tool to do things quicker or more efficient, especially when we talk about larger projects and you would like to automate things as much as possible. So we will focus on that at the end.
That's right, and as always, I urge you to ask your questions on the right-hand side at the end, or as we progress with the show, we are going to take some time to answer them. But let's cut to the chase because we have a lot on our plate. So let's first talk about the tools that we mentioned in the beginning, the complex editing and design tools. So what do you have? What's the first thing on your agenda?
Let's first talk about the design phases. The design phases are actually time slices of the building process that you can cover in ARCHLine in one single project. For that purpose, I have loaded this project. This is a 4-building project. Now we will focus on the left-hand side building. And on that building part, I will try to show you as easy as possible how you can handle one stage and then build up another stages and other phases. Let me just quickly focus on a different part of this model because, here, this is where we will work. And then on the left-hand side, I will just now switch back to the first stage where I started to work with, and that was the existing plan. So as you can see, this is all handled in one single project. So I'm not loading different projects or drawings. This is in the same project. And how that works? Now, when you start working in ARCHLine, when you create a new project, the default setting is that you design the existing state of a building. That means that's the starting point. That's the origin where you start from. It's like when we went to a site and we made the survey plan. That's the existing state. That's what we first do. So otherwise, other than that, we just simply draw things. Like, for example, I just pick a wall tool and I just pick 1 and 2 points, and then what I've created now, I can be sure it was created in the existing plan because I can see that I see the existing plan and I'm in the existing state. So whatever I created, it's in the existing state. Now moving on, I can say that, okay, I have this existing state, but there are things that I will demolish, I will remove in the building process, and later I will fill the interior with different walls and layout and everything else. So then I can handle the contents. So let's say, for example, there are windows and doors and partition walls that will be removed. So let's talk about how to handle those things. Now, first things first. Now, these are in an existing state. This is how I designed this building. And now I'm at the phase where I can say that, okay, here at the edit, there's actually 2 places where you can find a way to change an existing item to something else. Now you can tell that in the phases you would like to change something to demolished. Let's just click on this. This works in a very easy way. You just click on the items.
You just have to highlight the elements that you want to move to another phase.
Yes. So now it's seemingly nothing happens, but in the background the software registers that, okay, this is to be demolished, this is to be demolished, and so on. You can do it with an individual door or window and things like that. And everywhere I clicked, now the software registered these changes. It won't reflect anything in the existing plan because the existing plan is how it is.
Oh yes, that's right.
So I have to move on to the next phase where I can visualize what is to be demolished. So this is the following phase, which is the demolition plan. This here. Now, as you can see now, the software is changing something, and what it does, it's actually creating a new representation of the same building with the changes that I've made, highlighting things that are to be demolished. So now everywhere I clicked on the windows and the walls, as you can see, I already prepared this project, so I also completely removed the roof. You can see it in the 3D. Everything that you can see in the 2D, you can follow the changes in the 3D as well.
So they are reflected on both sides. That's right.
Yes,
so what comes after that?
As you can see now, this is what will happen. I can sometimes when you are busy with things to do and you just forget about things, and this is the stage when you realize that well, I forgot to set this to be demolished. This is to be demolished because I will fill this interior with something else. So again, now you can use the same tool and change to demolish, or you can just simply, and this works everywhere in the software, you can right click there and use the local menu, the context menu, and change the phase to something else. Now I can change only to the other two, the new and the demolish. So I just change to demolish, and then now it's already reflected.
Oh yes, so you can manually assign things.
Yes, you don't have to make those changes in the existing state to be able to work with that. Sometimes I do switch to the demolish state. I can see the same as in the existing phase, and then I start changing things to the demolished state, so I can easily keep track of those changes because they are so obvious how they look like.
That's right.
Also, it's worth mentioning here that when you go to phases, there is something, it's called the graphic overrides, and this graphic override allows you to set up how things look like in an existing plan, on the demolition plan, and so on and so on. So you can define overrides. Now, what is an override? An override is when you tell that whatever this wall, for example, originally looks like, when it goes to the demolition phase, when you mark it to be demolished, it should look like this. It should change its contour properties, like dashed line and thicker lines or red lines. And you can even change the filling. All those things you can change here. So you can, as you can see, there are the phase filters. This is actually a filter, the existing plan and the demolition plan where we are now. The demolition plan is overridden in these two phases. So when I say that the demolished should look like, for example, this, I can see that, well, okay, yes, that's the properties
that
I can
for it. Yes,
I can
right.
see. Yeah. So you can change those if you prefer a different color, if you prefer a different line type or different hatch style. You can customize that for yourself. This is the default setting as we can see now. And now, when I move on to the following phase, which is the existing plan after demolition. So now we will see what happens after we removed everything that was marked to be demolished.
Both on the three, on
as you can see on the 3D as well. So they're actually just simply gone. You can't see them appearing, and this can be something as a starter for the new plan. Which when I go here, see there are holes, for example, which are in this phase. They are removed, but I mean there are no windows in them. But when I go to the new construction plan, they are filled up with wall because that's how in that phase they are, and then you can actually place new windows in them or just do whatever you like. And I already prepared new partition walls, glass surfaces, and everything else. So this is how you move from an existing phase to the final phase of the new building, new construction. Now the whole thing about this is that you don't have to work in this system if you don't want. By default, you will work in the existing phase. But if your building is very simple or your project is very simple, you just do whatever you did before, and you just create the documentation and do all the necessary drawings and 3D as before. But from using this tool, you will be able to add multiple other phases, time slices for the future, which you can easily manage and then switch there and
as
back between them.
opposed to making a new copy of the project file every now or then when you need that. So this is a more effective way to control the time slices, as you said.
Yes, if I wouldn't know about anything about this tool existing in ARCHLine, I would say that okay, for this I have to save a different project file with the name, I don't know, existing and demolition drawing and everything else. But you don't have to do that. It's all handled inside within the software. And this is also interesting when we come to the final phase, which I will talk about at the end of today's webinar, is when you would like to document this whole thing. You would like to paste it on a plot layout. Then you can also use all these phases with their proper dimensions and everything.
We have a question coming up. Can you also create a recess in an existing wall and show that as a part of demolition? That way the recess has to be created as a separate item, and then that item should be set to be demolished, right?
Yes. So when you say that something is to be demolished, everything supports that. There are, I think, even the lines can be demolished, because in ARCHLine, when you create something, you won't necessarily create a 3D body. For example, for me, especially when we are talking about, I don't know, for demolition, a plant is a weird thing to talk about. But let's say there is some plants that are to be removed, and it will be filled up with something else. If those are only groups, I can still mark the group to be removed. So
yes, that's right.
That's all happening through the same system. So everything that is visible and appearing will be able to be marked, with this setting. The only difference between the 2D and 3D or any special item is that they are not likely to appear in the 3D if they are not supposed to.
That's right. Now, I understand you have another tool that you want to talk about regarding handling complex projects, and that's the layer visibility groups.
Yes. Well, the layer visibility groups, they are complex lists of layers. Now, just to talk a little bit about layers. I know many of you already know and handle layers very well. I just would like to summarize what you can do with the layer if someone is not in a frame with this. So talking about layer visibility groups, layers are like infinitely transparent papers which you can stack on top of each other, and you can work with those. And you can combine them, and you can say that, well, this same 2D I would like to see as an architectural drawing, as an electrical drawing, as anything else. And this comes with another possibility but actually you can set up version 1, version 2, version 3 of the same project. You can prepare these to your clients. So when we do that, we can even use, there is a very convenient way, I like to use this a lot. This is the layer walk. This allows you to easily go through any of your drawings, and you can actually, let's say, I can actually combine many other things into this same drawing and just hit OK and then work with that. It's very, very fast to do. But as you can see,
there's another way.
But as you can see, if I have a lot of layers to work with, then to set up one combination takes a lot of listening, a lot of active power from me to always try to not to forget to switch on or off on any of those layers. But when I switch there and back between these visibility groups, this is why we call them like that. It would be very nice to be able to just name them accordingly and then just simply use them. And that's actually what you can do in the layer manager. Now the layer manager comes with the layers. That's fine. We already know about that. We have a lot of materials about that. If you are not that much well informed about layers, but here's the layer list. Let me just go to the top. I worked with those. See, there are layer visibility groups which I created before. There is something called all layers. There is another one with DWG group import. There is the entire building block, and there is my house. And as you can see, when I click through, just listen here. There's the all layers and entire building block. The same list I can see here, but with different settings. And that's what a layer visibility group does. It switches on and off a bunch of layers for you based on your preset. So how does that look like in the 2D? I just go back, and here, as you can see, there is the same name. This is for the for the layer visibility group. So if I click on all layers, I can see everything, even the lamps are here. Even I click on, well, the WG group won't make sense here. That's an empty thing here. That's the entire building block. This is how it looked like before. And there is something called My House. And it's containing only My House. And in the 3D, it will reflect changes when I rebuild the 3D. So let's say I'm fine with this, but I would like to prepare another layer visibility group when I can see only my building, but with the furniture. So I think this will be a nice example to show you how that goes. Now, first things first, this is the initial stage where I start from. I already have a lot of layers turned off, those are fine. But what I would like to do, I just would like to create another visibility group enabling this furniture here, for example, this here, and perhaps the kitchen. Now these are all things that I'm about to use. Now, if I would simply hit OK, I can see that, but when I select My House again, My House still contains the status where everything is turned off. So I have to save it somehow. And then when I would like to store it here, I just simply update. But now I would like to keep it and create a new one. So this is a new group, and I will just name it My House. Let's say, let's just keep it simple, My House with furniture, okay? And that's it. So now I have this one, and I have this one. See, the layers change their properties. When I hit OK, I can see the latest selected. And then I can use this quick jump list to switch there and back between the two. And then update the 3D when I need it.
That's a very good way to control what you want to show and what you want to hide.
And very easy to handle that. So
now let's actually create something here. So in the beginning we mentioned that we are going to show you some automated designing tools, and I'm going to show you a few of these. Now, before we get to it, I have to load up another status of this project, because that would hold in an isolated environment what I want to actually show you today. So first of all, what we are going to talk about are going to be corner windows, which is a recurring topic, and it's a very good way to illustrate one of the policies of ARCHLine. You can design and model almost anything, but there are automated ways which make certain things easier to handle. So let's see what happens if I want to position a couple of windows and turn them into corner windows. And that is a very good pretext for me to show you how to quickly access items which are in our object library. Because yes?
So when you would like to access an item, it means perhaps a command or a door or window or something like that?
That's right. You, for instance, want to position two windows here and link them up. What you do is that you go to the window library, and then you see a drop-down menu of window types, actually. So if you want to work with single or double windows or maybe roof windows, then these are here as in a palette.
I see.
If you don't find the exact type that you're looking for, you can just click on this plus, and that that takes you to the design center where you can find the window.
And perhaps from here I can still use the home button to go back to
oh yes, definitely. You can go back to the main element types, but this is the idea, and this applies to this policy to doors, to windows obviously, and even to the interior items.
Also.
Yes, lighting elements, electrical accessories. You just click on what you want to work with, and it would be yours. But this was just a short detour from our original topic, which is corner windows. Now let's see how to work with them. What I want to do is I want to create something like this on the upper floor. Now, how do we do that? I've started the work in the 2D window because that's just easier for me. I go one floor up because this is where I work, and here's what I do. I can just copy these windows because these are going to be something similar. So I position one window over here, and without being too accurate, I position the other one here. There's a very neat automated way in ARCHLine to link the two together, and this is found under the window and window on wall corner and join two openings on a wall corner tab. So all you have to do, you have to just click on the two elements that you want to link up, and they are linked up. Now,
so it's not enlarging the windows; it's just
it's moving them. So this is something that might override the preset position of the window, obviously. So you might have to fine tune that. But here's a very neat thing: if I zoom in, you can see that a mullion is created automatically. But perhaps maybe I can illustrate this in another way, so that it would make more sense how this thing works. So I have like a sample drawing here in which I will show you how the linking actually works. First of all, I'm going to repeat the same thing I did, only this time I'm going to instigate the command from the 2D window. I click on, I click on edit in the local menu, and I say join two openings on the wall corner. And all I have to do...
That's actually the same.
That's actually the same. It's just a matter of how you want to achieve that, how you want to access it.
Yeah, I like the local menu. I use it a lot.
Yes.
It contains everything. Yeah.
That's right. It's at your fingertips. So you just have to select one, select the other, and the windows are joined, and again, the mullion is created. Now, here's another example, and I have another saved view here so we can show how this works. Let's look at what's under the hood, so how you can create something like that. So what happens when you use this tool? I'm going to link up these two windows, but this time it's going to be manual. So first of all, I have to move the window, something like that.
Let's match with the other one.
Yes, match with the other one, and move the other window as well. I move it all the way up here. And here's what happens. I see that the windows are touching, but there's a piece of wall here.
So this is what the automatism automatically
solves. But this time we are going to do it manually, because then we would understand the logic behind it. That's right. So here's what we do. We have to get rid of this tool, and this is where this marker comes in view. This is the resize void, which what it does is that it just makes the cutout bigger. It's not touching the window size. It's modifying the opening itself. So I have to modify the size of the void this way, and also for the other window.
The void is actually the hole around
the hole, yes, in which the window is. Yes.
Most of the time they are matching, but when you would like to achieve manually something like this or other things, you can actually enlarge the void around the window or door.
That's correct. And here's one issue I see. The mullion is not automatically added, but that's something that I have to do now manually. Since I didn't use the automated tool, I have to do it by hand.
But you place a column or?
You can obviously do that, but there's an automatism for that too. Let me just first click on this window. I see that there are markers for the left and right hand side of the window. Let me show you why that is relevant. I have to know where I want to add the mullion, right? So I know that for this window, I have to add the mullion to the right-hand side. I go to the window properties tab open, and I go to built-in details, and I say that I want to have a mullion on the, what side was that?
It was right.
Yes, that's right. I can either add a cross-sectional profile. I'm just going to see what's added here. This is a rectangle, and I see it's going to be 100 by 100. So I think this is good.
That should be fine.
Let's see. Okay, so I see it's automatically solved, right? So that's the logic behind it. Now let's see what happens if I want to add, want to link up different window types. Now, if the sizes are the same, it doesn't matter what kind of types you have. If you have a sash window or anything like that, you can just again use this tool over here or from the local menu and link them up. But now comes the tricky part, and that's something which is a recurring topic, especially for buildings in the UK and in other places as well. What happens with bay windows? Because for bay windows, they are meeting at an angle.
Yeah.
So if I were to link them up,
obviously a rectangular pole won't work.
Yes, the rectangular pole won't do, but just to be sure, I'm just going to link them up anyway. So if I do that, I see that there's a protruding mullion over here.
So what happens when I already have this? I can obviously remove it, right?
Yes, or you can override it with another profile. But here's what I need to do. What I usually do, but again, there might be other good tools for that. You can just sort of draw out the profile which you want to use to fill this gap, right? So you create something like that, which is just a polyline basically. And you save it as a profile in your library. I already did that, so I have it here. Just I don't want to waste too much time with that. So what I do, I go back to the window, I open up these properties, and I just let me just go back to so it should be on the left-hand side. I go back to the built-in details. I see the mullion on the left. I use the drop-down menu and define the cross-section, and that is going to be something else which I have already.
So you already saved this
yes, I did. I didn't want to spend too much time on that one. So I just insert it. I might need to mirror it or rotate it, but if I'm correct, then the mullion is going to solve itself neatly. So these are the ways that you can use to link up windows in an effective manner.
I have two questions here.
Yes.
What happens if I can't find the best position for this? For example, it's rotated, so then I just go back and
yes, you can do that.
Right?
You can. There's no, since the windows are the million could be on the left and right hand side. The software
anyhow.
cannot really tell you exactly that this is where you should put it, but what you can do is that you can go back to the profile cross section and mirror
use
it,
those two.
and rotate it,
Right,
or
rotate
resize
those.
it if you want to have it protruding. So
Okay.
if you, and also if you want to add, to change the material because you have the mullion as a plastic piece, then you can do that too, or maybe you just have it as a piece of plastic which is covering the gap. So this is something where you come in as a designer, but these are the automated ways that the software is using
And
to.
the second question for
Yes?
me is perhaps for the viewers who don't know where you can find the new profile tool for closed profiles.
Definitely,
You don't
definitely.
have to show that, just where they can find the profile, because
It's
you already
under
have a material
yes, it's
about
under
that.
drafting and new profile. So you have to do is just you have to define the profile that
that's
you
it.
have drawn and save it to your library, and that way you have two choices whether you want to keep it as a local group, which you are only using in this scenario,
Yeah.
or you want to make it into a library item, in which case you can use it for other things as well.
There are many different profiles. Keep that in mind. That when we talk about closed profile, it's always like a contour of a pole or anything like, but which should be swept along an open profile, which is actually a path.
Yes. But like I said, these are one of the automated ways, and let me show you another example of these automated tools, and that is going to be used for creating ramps. So let me navigate to a view where I can actually see what I want to work on. So this is a recurring topic. What are the ways that with which you can define a ramp which complies with the regulations?
I see.
That's something that you have to solve somehow, and we have a dedicated tool for creating ramps. It's connected to the stairs. It has a similar logic, but different settings.
Yeah.
So let me show you how that works. Just like with the stairs, you have to define a starting point, and you have to define an end point, just like that. Obviously, you can type in the value if you want to go with the exact length, but now I'm just going to.
This can also be an L shape or something.
Oh
like
yes,
that.
it can be other shapes as well. It can be like a cylindrical or arched way.
Yeah.
Now, what I usually do next, I define the width, and I just offset the points until I have the right shape.
Yeah.
And now comes the most important part where you actually define the inclination. Now, I could go with the percentage if I know that, but now I want to
For
make.
example, if this is for an accessibility ramp or something like
Yes,
that,
yes.
Then you have to define a specific angle.
That's right, I can do that, but now I want to tie it to the to this piece of slab or the
Yeah,
entrance.
so you already know from where
Yes.
it goes to.
To where, exactly. I know the values, the base elevations, and that's what I'm going to add now. So you have three choices here, or more than that, actually, it's four. But the point is that I have to choose the option which allows me to define the base level and the top level. Obviously, you can have one of them fixed and then add the inclination, but I'm just going to go with that.
And just as in any other case in ARCHLine, these are measured from the bottom of the floor.
Oh, that's right.
There's a floor system in ARCHLine which you can change, and these are referring to those values.
That's right. I know that the top is going to be 0 because that's the 0 point of my project, and the bottom would be minus 300. And if I do that, the ramp is automatically created. One of the great things about the ramp tool is that you're able to assign a railing to it just like you would do with the staircase.
Yeah.
So you just have to go.
And again, it's important for accessibility ramps.
That's right. That's sort of a given. So you have to go with the properties and go to the railing, and it's going to be on the left-hand side. And the railing would be, I go with the steer profile. I know for a fact how this is going to look like. So here you go.
I see.
So that's how you create something like that. Obviously, now you can fine tune. This railing behaves separately from the ramp. It's not tied to it. It just gets the inclination information.
Yeah,
from
it automatically adjusts itself, and then you can customize it. And one important thing that these railings that you have selected before for the ramp, those are the styles that you can save, that you can maintain in the software. The software is shipped with a default list of railing styles, just as with door styles and wall styles and everything else. You can extend those libraries, and you can use the existing ones or your own ramps.
Definitely.
And railings.
Meanwhile, I'm opening up another project because I want to discover another tool which is able to create the automated solving of the meeting of structural elements.
Yeah.
And that is actually the stair layout. I think we have covered this before, but let's talk about how you can govern how the staircase meets with walls.
Yeah, the left-hand side we definitely talked about, but let's just.
The examples on the in the above, these are the statuses what I want to achieve, right? So that's
the top is the goal.
Yeah, the top is the goal, and the bottom is where we are right now.
Yeah.
So let me show you how we go from here to there. This one is something that you originate from the staircase itself. You have to open up the stair menus, the properties, and you have to go to the support tab where you can define how the staircase is going to cut the walls.
Just as in case of the slab or the
That's right, or the roof actually.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where you can define. I'm just going to say that every single wall, whether above or below, are going to be cut.
Yeah.
This is not something that is done automatically. This is a transactional update of the model, so you have to click on the 3D hammer to update this. Surfaces are joined automatically, so
But
the
they are
line
still
is
two different items.
the line disappears. Now,
Yeah.
but this one on the right-hand side is a bit different story, because this is something that
So I cannot just turn on the same setting and it solves.
no, because then it would be on the at the
so
bottom.
it always cuts from the top.
That's right. So we have to find a way to profile, to give a frontal profile to this wall, which tracks this. Now, obviously, I could open up the frontal profile settings and try to offset the nodes until I meet the staircase. But here's the thing: if the staircase is curved, for instance, this would be very difficult to do and time-consuming.
Yeah.
So this is one of those scenarios when an automated tool helps you with a complex situation. So.
And actually, this is a good idea to talk about profiling, which is a very powerful
Oh yes,
tool in
definitely.
ARCHLine.
Walls can be profiled for their cross section or from frontally.
And even from the top.
Yes, even
Just
from
by
the top
changing their-
in 2D or 3D. So that's the way you can use to create these organic shapes, or maybe like a wave-like pattern.
Yeah.
So lots of things happen here. It's just I'm just going to show you the basics, and the rest is up to you.
Yeah.
So right-click on the wall and go with profile, and we say that we want to add a whole frontal profile. If I click on it, before I do anything, I see that there's an option called stair, which, if I click on it, allows me, as the message says, to pick a staircase which would project its profile onto the wall that I want to work with. So I just have
it's
to
like
hit.
imprint of the stair.
That's right. It obviously I can see it right now, but on the layout it won't be visible. So I have to click on the staircase, and now if I put down the layout, I see that the staircase is nicely drawn here.
Yeah.
So what I need to do, I have to highlight this part of the wall, which I can do point by point, which would be pretty time consuming, or I just click that I want to have a closed loop.
Let's use a auto recognition tool.
Yes, it's like the paint bucket in those drawing applications where you just click on an encircled area,
the shape automatically.
recognizes the shape, and it's automatically solved, just like that. So that's the way you can make the staircases and wall pieces interact.
Yeah.
And that's one of those those automated things which would make the design phase easier.
Yeah, one thing to highlight here is that the left-hand side, what you see is automatically regenerated anytime you make changes. I mean,
Oh, yes.
when the
Forgot to
staircase
mention that,
changes inclination, for example, then because the left-hand side is based on a rule setting, it automatically updates itself until the wall can reach the staircase. The right-hand side is a custom tailored drawing that you have created, so it won't automatically follow the changes when the staircase changes inclination, but you can update the profile by simply repeating the same step and then just join them together.
That's
again.
right. And another tool that I would like to show you regarding automated design elements is actually something that are called the Brise soleils. Now these are actually shaders, so elements that you can use to block the sunlight to prevent heat gain. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples. I'm pretty sure that you know what I'm talking about. So these are those kind of blades that are on a steel structure that block sunlight in a way
you can
that you
even change
want.
their angle, as you can see on this photograph.
Now here's the tricky thing. You can obviously use any kind of tool in ARCHLine, for instance, the railing tool or other things to model these elements with the blades, but these would not be parametric. So if you want to change how the frame looks like, or you want to change the layout
Curved
like
wall.
that, then that won't be possible unless you use the dedicated tool, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So let's talk about how we do something like that. So I'm just going to navigate in the 2D where I want to go, and I want to have one Brise soleil here and a couple up there. I'm just going to show you what we have in terms of that. So under roof and outdoor tools, we have a tool called Brise soleil horizontal. I just click on it, and now I just have to put down a polyline, and I see that when I do that, I actually draw the whole structure. So I'm just going to hit enter, and the structure is created, which is great because now I can work with it. This is not the final result what I'm looking for, but this is a good start. So if I click on it, I can go to the properties, and set up a few things, including the frame structure, so I could give another cross section for these profiles.
Okay.
But what I'm
so here you can reach the same profile library.
Oh,
where
definitely. You
is
can go with
accessible from everywhere.
you can go with the profiles you
steel
want.
profiles, wooden profiles, whichever.
Or just create another one if you want. But what I'm more interested in here are the blades. I can change the rotation. I'm just going to make it 300. You see that it's changing, and also spacing is okay. I'm just going to use it as it is, but the offset of the first blade, I want to fill this gap, so I'm just going to say it should be the same as this. So I'm just going to say it's 100.
Nice symmetrical.
Refresh, and this is the advantage of doing this like that, as opposed to creating the blades as an array of steel
Model
pieces.
them somehow else.
Yes, because now I can update changes on them. I can even save them as a customized object. So I'm just going to hit OK, and the element is created. Now, if you want to have something of a vertical brise soleil, for instance, for this piece over here, you do it similarly. End result is the same, but there's a dedicated tool for that as well. So I'm going to go with the vertical, which can be, again, like a corner item, but I'm just going to use it as a horizontal piece, just like that, from point to point. Enter.
But you don't have to choose a window for that. You can draw
no,
it
you
along
can.
the whole
you can use it as a
elevation
fence as well if you want, because at the end of the day, this is just basically columns or profiles between
based on those rules.
Which certain profiled elements are arrayed. So if you want to change it and make it some way else, then you can do that.
Yeah.
Let me go back to the 3D. There's a couple of things I want to set up, including how this element is positioned. So I'm just going to. I think I have to move it a little bit downwards
to, I don't know, match this bottom part of that slab, perhaps.
I think that's good, and I want to extend it to this piece over here. And again, if I go back to the settings, I can change the offset, and I want to make it 100 millimeters from the top, so that way it would be nice and symmetrical.
The same thing.
But this is not artsy enough, so let's go with something more spectacular. So at the back of this element,
backyard.
Yes, the backyard. Thank you. I have a couple of columns onto which I want to create something that we have seen in these images.
The photographs.
Yes.
I saw something which is the.
That's right.
Angled one.
I want to create the same thing over here. So what do I do then? I go with the same tool set, but now I have to go with the custom form.
Yeah.
Which is actually allowing me to pick these points and just extend it all the way to the end. Holding down the shift key, I'm able to snap to this point. So I'm just going to do it this way.
Direction.
I hit enter, and the element is created automatically. Now, this is a preset profile that you see over here. That's not really what I'm looking for. So
yeah, I just wanted to ask why I didn't understand. I would like to have a curvy one.
At some point, I want to have a curvy one, but let me just go with something simpler. So if I go to the properties, and I want to define the profile, the profile of this inclination, I just have to click on this pencil thing, which would actually put down my profile onto my 2D layout.
It's like a side view of this.
That's right.
Curve.
So that's actually the side view. That's the curve itself. So if I put it down, let's say I want to match this with the straight part of the triangle.
Yeah.
I want to make it like that. So it's like it's not 45 degrees, but close to that. So. What I have to do first, I'm going to delete this node. The other node comes here, and I'm just going to turn this into a straight edge.
Line.
That's right. Let's hit enter, see what happens. And I see that it's a nice straight, but it's inclined. And if I hit OK, it's there. I need to change the base elevation, so I'm just...
the perfect position.
I think the best value would be 2,100 millimeters. OK, that's good enough. Now, here's another way to define how this side view looks like.
Yeah.
And this time I'm going to go do it from the 2D, and you might accuse me that I'm going back to the same thing where we started from, but this actually gives you the idea of how this works.
I won't.
I'm just going to go with a define custom frame. And now what I have to do, I have to pick one polyline or chain or curve what I want this profile to match. And
so the difference now that you won't lay down the existing one to match that one, but you can
I'm picking up
draw
one.
a new one.
I could draw one, obviously, or I can just go with select an item, click on this curve, hit enter, and now the curve is done. Obviously now I again have to compensate for the changes. The base elevation should be 1,400. Let's see.
But you can still graphically also move it. So if you
definitely
you don't know
you
the
can.
value, then you can just
Definitely you
elevate
can.
and
That's right. You
decrease that.
just use the nodes and
Yeah.
and just work
Yeah,
it
just
work
as
it
a
that
side.
way.
Mhm.
Go back to the 3D. Let's see how this element, this Brise soleil, has an influence on my drawing, because as you probably know, we have a shadow simulation in the software, so we are able to, I can obviously just turn off the shadows and see how it looks right now, or if I have the geolocation set up, I can go with an animation, which would allow me to set up the time frame. I think this is good enough from 10 to 4 p.m. and I want to have an image every 3 minutes. And if I say preview, now the software is going to draw me how the shadows are going to pan out on the elevation of the building.
I see.
So again, that's one advantage of using a parametric element for drawing things like that, because then all these kind of setups, which might come at a later stage of your project, can be easily implemented.
Mm. That's nice. That's nice. So
Very easy to use.
well, actually, also you can I can use this same tool here, which we talked about earlier.
That's right. If you want to,
and this whole thing is based on the geolocation.
that's right. And if you just want to set up something for a nice render, then that's the way you do it. You just manually set up the sliders to have a nice result. But if you want
and then heat rendering.
yes, if you're looking for things like solar access or anything like that, you have to like make an animation and then it draws where the shadow should be. It's a very good tool to make a very contemporary design.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think I have a few words on documentation here. The first things first.
Perhaps you want to have another project open.
Yeah, let's just open another project, and then I will work with this. I actually worked with the same one that I have used at the beginning. I mean, at the beginning. But I just would like to first focus on a very specific tool which is used quite often, and that is the wall elevation. I mean, the wall dimensions. And the wall dimension has a few options that we didn't talk about yet, and that's hidden in the settings. It's not really hidden. It's in plain sight. But I just would like to highlight how those works, because in some countries and in case of designing some sort of specific types of buildings, it can be important. Now let's just go to the dimension, and there is something called the building, and there are several tools here, but now I'm about to talk about the all walls or the simple walls tool. Now, let's just go with this one because I would like to measure the whole building around. And this might be familiar for you, already used this tool, because there is a list of dimension options that you can select one and add to this bottom list. This is how you build it up. Now I already added something called this last option. This is actually a sum of the length of the building or the width of the building. I will show you how this differs from the wall endpoints, for example, or the wall endpoints and connections. And there is another tool. So this was the first one, and there is this other tool. I mean other option, which is called the dimensioning, the midpoint, which is actually something that I can easily show you when I do this, and I just select the whole building, and let's just place them close to the building now so we can obviously see what have changed. Now, as you can see, normally, I mean, at least how I use it for most of my buildings, normally the software would measure the end points, the corner points, the outer corner points of the walls, because this is how I measure them. But when I switch that option to midpoint, then I can measure the center, and then all center points, even where it joins, this is not joined, so it's not highlighted, but wherever there are joints between the walls, it will be automatically measured. And there was this other option, which is summarizing the lengths of the
if
building.
you have break on the elevation walls.
For example, here I accidentally overlapped the
those are the columns.
But as you can see, there is the break in the elevation, which is fine. I would like to understand what's the distance between those points, but I also would like to have a summary of that, and that comes the same at the left hand side, where I have an elevation with kind of an extension, which normally otherwise wouldn't be measured. But this way, with the last option, the software will always create a sum of that dimension, the length or width of the building.
Very useful.
Yeah, so this is how you can use those two values. Those are very specific. Not many of you will use it, and some of you won't, because it's just simply not for all types of buildings.
From region to region.
Not for all countries.
But the setting is there.
But the setting is there for everyone.
What else do you have in terms of documentation?
Talking about documentation, let's focus on the literal documentation, I think. And I would like to talk about, let me just undo this and go back to the whole building. Let me talk about the auto documentation. Now, the auto documentation will help me to create complex drawings, which I would anyhow create, but it will kind of automate this process for me. What happens? Let me just show you first. So when you go to documentation, and now, as you can see, I only have a 2D layout, and I only have the 3D model. I didn't create elevations, sections, and anything else, which now I can start to do. But if I go to auto documentation, it can partially take some job from me to automate this process. So it can, let's go through this. It can automatically create the wall dimensions, which I just did before. I can see the same settings. I can decide what I would like to use, and once I already used it a few times, I already know how to set this up. Then I can even enable sections. So sections, at least 2 sections of my building will be automatically generated. I can add as many as I want, and even I can change the existing ones. So I can enable or disable, and when I already enabled that, I can go to the settings and set up the settings for the section, how it looks like, whether it's hedged or not, and so on. I can also go to the elevation settings. I can even enable the auto generation of the elevations of this building, and then with the same setting, I can just set up the settings of how the elevation views should look like.
Can you set up here if you want to have shadows on your elevation?
Yeah, it's inside the setting of this setting list of the elevation setting. Also talking about the plot layouts. The plot layout is the end of this whole thing. That's why I do that, but I don't have to use it. Auto documentation is not necessarily about plot layout, but at the end I usually do that. So again, creating a plot layout is normally a process when you set up a paper and then you drag and drop drawings on it and organize them, which is tedious when you have many of those, and you have at least 20 or 30 pages that you have to manually assemble. This can be tedious, but with this option enabled, the software will auto-generate plot layouts using all your drawings that you have decided to use. And if you go to the preferences, you can set up what sort of paper it should use. Now, even if a few pages are not falling in the same size range, you can later change them and just remove any of those and exchange with a smaller or larger one. So this is also a fine thing to do, and there is also a setting that, okay, when I already have a plot layout, let's just place all the drawings and let's just use a scaling for all of them, and then if I don't like, or
you can change them manually one by one. At least you would have everything in one place, right?
Yes. So let's just do that. So now when I hit OK, and I say, yeah, okay, let's just do that, refresh the model, and let's make sure everything is correct and up to date.
Just can you give me a reminder of what kind of drawings? So we are going to have the floor plans, the sections, the elevations.
Elevations. There are also, if I would have some draftings or something like that with another drawing, that would be also collected. And also, now what it does, it's generating the model. It's just, making the snapshots of the sides, or these are actually not snapshots, they are drawings. And then when I say, okay, let's just go with that and generate all those things next to each other, then the software is shuffling and trying to automatically organize things on this drawing. And at the right bottom side, now I can see this. There actually, well, I have chosen the wrong page size because I wanted to have a horizontal page setting, but
it doesn't matter.
Okay, let's just go with this. So now I have these things here, and if it's too large for this paper, I can either remove the complete thing and place another one here, or I can just say, well, let's just change, for example, the properties for this, and let's go to the settings and change the architectural scale, and even I can change the phase. So this is what I talked about at the beginning when we covered the design phases, how you can handle them. If you already have design phases and you use them, then you can just simply switch there and back between those design phases. And again, that's the same thing for the 2D and the 3D. And for example, in the 2D, now I have created a 2D with which is now kind of falling to the bottom. So let me just move it to the top. I can resize it. I can even change the borders or rescale it. Now let me just chop that down. Normally, I would change the position of the dimensions. So now, what I would like to highlight that even when you make changes, this is a very handy thing to do. When you make changes on the 2D, now for example, this is a representation of the 2D in the right bottom corner. Now this has a setting which we call the colored floor plan. Now we can see, and when I zoom in, we can see the pattern of the floor.
Of the floor.
Yeah, I don't want to see that now, so now I decide to remove that. I just remove the colored floor plan. Now it's updated here, and when I would like to see that reflected here, all I need to do, and this same thing goes around with all the drawings, you can just right click there and say, okay, refresh this, and then the software is looking at the drawing, how it looks like now, and it updates that, and then you can see how the changes are reflected in this layout. So whenever you make changes, which is normal, this happens a lot during a design process, then you can just simply make the changes, and then you just shouldn't forget to update those in the plot layout.
So basically the software gives you a bunch of documentation pieces, so it does a lot of things for you, but obviously you would have to fine-tune this manually. But the most tedious part of the job, namely putting things onto plot layout, is actually done by the software.
Yes. So it's putting things for you to nicely organize them, and even remove things. For example, usually I have a drawing which is only for drafting, and there is an empty page because perhaps I had an empty floor. So I just don't want those. I just remove them, and then let's focus on the rest. And I didn't turn off, but I could turn on the plot stamps, the title boxes, which I already have a few of them nicely filled up. The software could already place them there automatically. And there is one another thing which you can see here. This text here is not appearing on the original drawing. Let me just focus on that. See, there's no text like that. Because that's actually automatically placed by the software when I use this tool. And this is something that I can also change. If I click here, this is a drawing name. I can just change it to drawing 01, I don't know, floor plan or something like that. And when I do that, and I hit enter, the software is changing this, which is the drawing title. So now the drawing title is changed. It's just simply regenerating, and now it's saving the project. And as you can see, it's changed here. And then when I go to the project navigator, it already also contains the same thing. So you won't only rename the documentation part as a, I don't know, broken link with the original drawing, because this is still the original drawing. So you just actually rename the drawing itself as well.
So it links up. That's the way you can find it in the project navigator. Yeah. Neat. That's very good. That's actually what we wanted to talk about during this session of looking at discovering the complex editing tools of ARCHLine. What is going to happen next week?
Well, next week we will talk about an interesting topic, and that will be I forgot what that will be.
Yes, that will be
because I can't see the cheat sheet on the other screen.
And licensing options.
Yeah.
So it's a recurring topic. We already discussed this earlier in other videos, but we have to talk about the aspects that influence how you can work. What kind of hardware is a good hardware for ARCHLine? So we talk about RAMs, CPUs, GPUs, and we also talk about licensing options, how you can handle your licenses, how you can move from one computer to the other, and most importantly, if you are upgrading from one version of ARCHLine to the other, how do you relocate the environment with you?
Yeah, and we are very happy that you have been here. I see that you had been here from Vietnam, Spain, Poland, and even
United
from Britain,
Kingdom,
and even from France. So it was a great thing to show you all these things.
Yes, this thing is global now. So
yeah, we hope you like that, and let's focus on the following webinar and
see you
what
next week
time.
At the same time, where we talk about these amazing issues regarding licensing, activation, and customization of the software. Thank you very much for your attention. See you next week.
Yes, see you next week. Bye.